The barking audit. The barking audit is the part everyone skips, and it's the reason most people fail before they even start. Here's the thing almost nobody gets right. Barking isn't one problem. It just sounds like one problem. It's actually like 9 different problems all coming out of your dog's mouth in the exact same annoying noise. There's territorial barking, alarm barking, the hi welcome to my house greeting bark, attention barking, bored barking, scared barking, frustrated barking, the bark that means something actually hurts, and the bark that means you left and I'm losing it. Same sound, completely different reasons. One bark means someone's near my house. Another means look at me. Another means I'm bored. Another means I'm scared. So the audit is dead simple. Every time it happens, you write down 6 things. When it happened, where, what the target was, what happened right before, what you did after, and what your dog got out of it. Like if barking makes the male guy leave, your dog thinks barking worked. If barking makes you look or talk or scold, your dog just learned barking gets attention. Do this and barking stops being random noise and turns into a loop you can actually break. And the second thing on this list fixes a ton of barking without teaching your dog a single new trick. Remove the reward. Removing the reward is so easy it almost feels like cheating, and there's a decent chance you're the one accidentally training the problem. Stick with me. Most barking keeps happening for one really dumb reason. It keeps working. The bark gets the dog something it wants, every single time. And the catch is, the reward is almost never something you'd think of as a reward. It's attention. It's you walking toward the dog. It's getting let outside. It's food, or a game starting, or a person finally walking away from the window. It's even you walking over to look out the window too, because now you're in on the alarm. So your whole job here is to figure out what the bark is getting and shut that off. Window barking? Close the curtains, slap some film on the glass, move the dog to another room, or just block the front window during the hours your street is busy. Barking to go outside, swap it for a bell or a button or sitting by the door instead. Barking in the crate? Do not let the dog out while it's still going. Wait for a tiny gap of quiet, reward that, then stretch it longer. This is why just ignore it only half works. Ignoring kills the payoff, but you've also got to reward the quiet, or the dog's got nothing else to do. But sometimes the bark isn't about reward at all. Sometimes your dog is just bored out of its skull, which is the next one. Exercise and enrichment. Exercise and enrichment is the boring answer that quietly fixes a shocking amount of barking, and there's a catch that trips up basically everyone. A dog with nothing to do barks because, well, what else is it going to do? No job, no walk, no brain stimulation, so it invents a hobby, and the hobby is yelling. Give it an actual outlet, and a lot of that noise just dries up on its own. Now, I'm not saying a tired dog never barks, because that's not true. What I'm saying is everything else on this list gets way easier once the dog isn't crawling out of its skin. Physical stuff first. Walks, fetch, tug, sniff walks where they get to follow their nose, training games, playtime with other dogs, or dog walker if you're gone for 9 hours. Then the brain stuff, which people forget. Puzzle feeders, food stuff toys, scent games, chews, hide treats around the house. Run through some basic obedience. That mental work tires a dog out more than a walk sometimes. This matters a ton if you've got an apartment dog, a young dog, a high-energy breed, or a dog home alone all day while you work. But here's the catch. Enrichment is not bribery, and it is not a cure-all. It changes your dog's baseline so barking isn't the only option. It will not fix fear. It will not fix aggression. It will not fix separation, panic, or pain, or compulsive barking. Use it for boredom and frustration, full stop. Which brings us to the one bark you are almost definitely guilty of feeding yourself. Attention barking. Attention barking is the one you trained yourself, completely by accident and fair warning. Ignoring it makes it worse before it gets better. So don't bail early. Here's how it happens. Dog barks. You react. And to the dog, that reaction is a jackpot. Doesn't matter what the reaction is. Looking at it counts. Talking to it counts. Saying no counts. Touching it, opening a door, tossing a toy to shut it up, handing over a treat, all of it counts as barking worked. You think you're telling it off. The dog thinks you just played the game, so the fix is making the bark do absolutely nothing, while a quieter move does everything. While it's barking, no eye contact, no talking, no petting, no scolding. Nothing. The second it pauses, sits, grabs a toy, or hits a bell, that's when the good stuff shows up. Now here's the trap, and it's a big one. Inconsistency. If you ignore the bark 9 times and then crack on the 10th because you've had enough, congrats. You just taught your dog that barking longer eventually pays off. That's worse than where you started. The clean version is ignore the bark, mark the first second of quiet, ask for a quick sit, then reward. And for stuff you can see coming, like work calls or TV time, give the enrichment before the barking starts instead of waiting for it. That spike where the dog tries harder when ignoring kicks in, that's totally normal, and it's exactly where everybody quits. Now here's how you actually put silence on an off switch, like a real command. The quiet cue. The quiet cue is the closest thing to a mute button, but most people instinctively do the one thing that makes it completely backfire. We'll get to that. First, the quiet cue works way better as something you train than something you scream across the living room. The dog has to actually learn that going silent after the word is what pays off. So here's the structure. Let the dog bark a couple times, that's fine. Then calmly, say quiet. Create a little pause, using distance, or redirecting it, or popping a treat near its nose so it has to stop to sniff. The instant it's quiet, reward. That's it. Then once the dog gets the idea, you start stretching the gap. Quiet for 2 seconds, treat. Quiet for 5, treat. 10. Then longer and longer until the quiet just becomes the default. Now here's the part people get wrong. Yelling, screaming, quiet at your dog almost always backfires. A lot of dogs hear you raising your voice and go, "Oh great, you're alarmed too, let's both freak out." Or it just winds them up even more. You're adding noise, not adding clarity. The cue works best stacked with everything else. Block the window trigger, call the dog away, ask for quiet, reward the silence, then send it to a mat or a chew. On its own though, it's weak. It will not fix panic, pain, serious reactivity, or separation anxiety by itself. But none of this sticks if your dog gets to practice barking all day long while you're not even looking. Window, fence, and car management. Managing windows and fences and the car sounds lazy, but your dog might be rehearsing this exact behavior dozens of times a week without you noticing. And practice makes the bark stronger. Here's the loop. Your dog sees something. A stranger, another dog, the delivery guy, a kid, a squirrel, the mail carrier. It barks. And then eventually that thing leaves. From your dog's point of view, barking just made the threat go away. It worked. It always works. So every unmanaged front window, every fence line, every balcony, every yard, every car window becomes a little barking gym. Your dog isn't just being annoying. It's literally rehearsing a guarding routine over and over until it's automatic. So you manage the environment to cut the reps. Close the blinds. Stick removable film on the lower part of the window. Move the couch so the dog can't perch and scan the street. Don't leave the dog alone in the yard for hours. Go opaque on the fencing if the fence line is the problem. Bring the dog inside during peak dog walking hours. Run white noise to cover hallway sounds in an apartment. And in the car, position the dog so it physically can't sit there scanning for stuff to bark at. Now I know management sounds like giving up, but it's the opposite. It drops your dog's arousal low enough that the actual training has a chance to work. Skip it, and your dog spends hours a week drilling the exact habit you're trying to kill. And speaking of triggers, there's one specific sound that turns even the chillest dog into total chaos. The doorbell drill. The doorbell drill might be my favorite because there's a way to flip the doorbell so it actually means go lie down instead of lose your mind. Sounds fake. It works. Here's why the doorbell is such a nightmare. That sound predicts a sudden flood of stuff. Strangers, guests, deliveries, movement, excitement, total uncertainty all at once, so the dog hears it and detonates. The fix is turning that sound into a cue for one specific job. You teach the doorbell to mean go to your bed, or your crate, or your mat, or your spot. Because a dog lying on its bed physically cannot also be body slamming the front door. The two can't happen at once, that's the whole trick. And you build it in stages. First, play a doorbell sound quietly, like really quiet, and feed amazing treats while it plays, so the sound stops meaning danger. Then, separately, teach go to your place nowhere near the door. Then you combine them, sound plus go to place. Then you add the real world chaos, opening the door, talking to someone, taking a package, having a friend actually ring the bell. One safety note, some dogs bolt straight out the door or mob the visitor. So use gates, a leash, a crate, or a barrier while you're still training. The whole point is giving your dog something to do instead of just something to not do. Doorbell stops meaning chaos and starts meaning go to your bed. Real quick, if any of this is actually landing, hit subscribe so the algorithm stops hiding dog training that works. Okay, back to it. Up next is where this stops being little tricks and starts rewiring how your dog actually feels. Desensitization and counter-conditioning. Desensitization and counter-conditioning is slower than everything before it, but it's the only thing on this list that genuinely transforms a dog instead of just muting it. Big words, simple idea, stay with me. Everything so far has been about stopping a sound. This is about changing the feeling underneath the sound. It's two pieces. Desensitization just means showing the dog the scary or exciting thing at a level low enough that it can stay calm. Not in its face. Far away. Quiet. Small. Counter-conditioning means pairing that thing with something awesome, usually really good food, so the dog's brain slowly goes from oh no to oh yes. And the golden rule is distance and intensity. If your dog is barking, lunging, growling, or it won't take a treat, or it can't peel its eyes away, you're too close. Back up. Lower the volume, make it smaller and easier. Here's the classic example, dog meets dog. You start with the other dog far enough away that yours notices it but doesn't explode. The whole time that other dog is in view, you're feeding treat after treat. The second the other dog disappears, the treats stop, cold. So the dog learns other dog equals bacon, no dog equals nothing. Do that over and over across a bunch of sessions, and the trigger starts predicting good things instead of war. Yeah, it's slower than slapping film on a window, but this one actually fixes the engine driving the barking instead of just covering up the noise. And it gets way harder the second you clip a leash on and step outside. Leash reactivity. Leash reactivity is the walk ruiner, and you're probably making it worse on every single walk without even realizing it. No judgment, almost everyone does this. Barking on walks comes from a few places. Fear, frustration, way too much excitement, not enough space, or just a desperate desire to go say hi to literally everything. And here's how owners accidentally crank it up. You tighten the leash the second you see a trigger, which tells the dog, yep, be tense. You drag the dog closer. You stop dead right in front of the other dog. Or you wait until your dog is already mid-explosion before you do anything. By then it's over. The better plan is to get ahead of it. Make distance early, before your dog locks on. Reward your dog just for noticing the trigger and staying chill. Feed good treats while you walk past, and either keep moving or ask for a calm sit, depending on what settles your specific dog. And the absolute best moment to step in is before the bark. Your dog will tell you it's coming. It stiffens, it stares, its mouth closes, tail goes up, it slows down and locks on. That's your window. This stuff matters most in tight spaces, apartment hallways, packed sidewalks, parks, the vet parking lot. And the goal here is not for your dog to greet every dog on earth. The goal is calm passing, handling some distance, and keeping its focus on you. Forcing a scared or frustrated dog into greetings just makes the leash barking worse. But honestly, the scariest barking is the kind that happens when you're not even home. Home alone barking. Home alone barking is where people panic and guess. And if you get this one wrong, you'll burn weeks fixing a problem your dog doesn't even have. So slow down before you diagnose. The big mistake is hearing my dog barks when I leave and immediately going separation anxiety. Sometimes, sure. A lot of the time, no. It could be boredom. It could be barking at squirrels through the window. It could be hallway noise in an apartment. It could be frustration at being crated, or fear, or just zero exercise, or actual separation distress. They look similar from the outside and they need completely different fixes. So before you do anything, film your dog. Camera, old phone, pet monitor, whatever. Then watch it like a detective. What kicks off the barking? How long does it last? Does it start the second you leave or an hour later? Does the dog settle down or never? And is there other stuff going on? Pacing, drooling, chewing the couch apart, trying to escape, peeing inside? Because the footage hands you the answer. Barking at people through the window? That's trigger blocking. You already know how to do that. Barking after hours of doing nothing? Enrichment and a midday walk. Barking in the crate but totally fine outside it? That's confinement stress, not separation. The diagnosis decides everything here, and if barking starts the moment you grab your keys and rolls into full-on pacing and panic and destruction, that's a separation plan, not regular obedience. And if it does turn out to be the serious kind, here's what's actually going on inside your dog. Separation distress. Separation distress is the most misunderstood one on this whole list, and your dog is not barking to get revenge on you. The truth is honestly a lot sadder than that. People genuinely believe their dog trashed the apartment to get back at them for leaving. That is not what's happening. The barking, the chewing, all of it is part of a straight-up panic response to being left alone. It's an anxiety attack, not a grudge. And the signs go way past barking. Pacing, destruction, accidents in the house, going kind of flat and depressed, drooling, panting, trying to escape, and getting anxious before you even leave. The second you touch your shoes, your keys, your bag, the dog learns those mean abandonment incoming. And here's a number worth knowing. The worst of it usually hits within the first 15 to 30 minutes after you walk out, and the vocalizing often peaks early. So if your camera shows a meltdown right after you leave, that fits. For milder cases, you're looking at relaxation training, teaching the dog to rest calmly on its own spot, food-based counter conditioning, predictable routines, and special treats that only ever appear during calm, low-key departures. For serious cases, it's gradual absence training, where you practice leaving for such a short time that the dog never tips into panic, then you stretch it out painfully slowly, and the really severe ones may need a vet and medication. This is not a bad habit you correct. It's a genuine welfare issue that needs a real plan. Tossing a chew toy and walking out the door does not touch this. And sometimes the cause isn't behavior or panic at all. Sometimes it's straight up medical. Medical and senior dogs. Medical and senior dog stuff is the one people never check. And if barking shows up out of nowhere, the worst thing you can do is start training. Seriously, hear me out. New barking, or barking that suddenly gets way worse, should not be treated as a behavior problem until you've ruled out the body. Dogs bark more when they're in pain, when something's uncomfortable, when they're losing their sight or hearing and the world's getting confusing, when they're anxious, and when their brain is changing with age. So get to a vet, especially if the barking showed up suddenly, spiked hard, happens at night, comes with pacing or confusion, makes no sense with the usual triggers, or shows up in an older dog along with changes in sleep, house training, or how it's acting. That combo is a flag. Now here's the one a lot of people have never heard of. Older dogs can develop canine cognitive dysfunction. Think of it like doggy dementia, an actual age-related condition in the brain, and the signs get summed up with the word DISHA. Disorientation, changes in how it interacts with you socially, messed up sleep-wake cycles, so up barking at 3 a.m., house training slipping, activity changes, and anxiety. So a senior dog that barks at night gets stuck in corners, paces around, or reacts to stuff that isn't even there. That dog doesn't need more obedience drills. It needs a vet first. Then there's a kind of barking that almost looks like the dog is broken. Compulsive barking. Compulsive barking is the one you genuinely cannot just train away on your own, and it's the point where DIY advice runs out of road. So this one's important. Compulsive barking is different from normal alerting or attention barking. It's repetitive, it's fixed, and it's sometimes totally disconnected from any real trigger at all. The dog might bark for crazy long stretches, bark at shadows, at reflections, at lights on the wall, at an open door, at literally nothing, just empty space, and usually there's other stuff layered on top. Pacing, spinning, circling, jumping in place, running the fence line back and forth like it's on a track. It's more serious because the behavior can feed itself. The barking and spinning become the thing the dog does to cope, and it's often tied to anxiety, confinement stress, not enough stimulation, or a genuine compulsive pattern. Basic management still helps and is worth doing. Cut the confinement stress. Stop tethering the dog out on a line. Crank up the exercise. Crank up the mental stimulation, more social contact, and block off the repetitive trigger zones, the fence line, the windows, wherever the loop lives. But, and this is the key part, If the pattern is rigid, super frequent, or just impossible to interrupt, that's your signal to stop guessing and get help. A certified applied animal behaviorist, a board-certified veterinary behaviorist, or a properly credentialed trainer is who you want for a real assessment and a real plan, which leads straight into the single most important rule in this entire video. The humane plan. The humane plan is the rule everything else has been building toward, and here it is. The fix that looks fastest is also the one most likely to wreck your dog. The hardest, highest stakes barking is the chronic stuff driven by fear, anxiety, aggression, compulsion, or separation panic. And that kind never gets fixed by a quick correction. It needs a full plan. A real plan stacks a bunch of the stuff we covered: managing triggers, desensitization, counter-conditioning, rewarding the calm behavior you want instead, changing the environment, getting a medical check, and actually coaching you, the owner. And there are pros for this. In the US, you've got certified professional dog trainers, certified applied animal behaviorists, and vet behaviorists, the ACVB diplomats, depending on how severe it is and whether meds are on the table. Now here's the part I really want you to hear. The current humane training guidance pushes hard toward reward-based methods and warns against the aversive stuff. Shock collars, prong collars, choke chains, leash corrections, flat-out punishment. And anti-bark collars specifically are a terrible first move when the barking comes from fear or anxiety or compulsion, because they just mute the sound without touching the reason. And think about what that actually means. A dog that goes quiet because it's scared of getting zapped isn't calmer. It isn't safer. It isn't better trained. It's just scared and silent. The goal was never silence at any cost. The goal is lowering your dog's need to bark in the first place, while teaching it a calmer thing to do instead.